I had already pre-sold a bunch of product and I was pretty much out of cash. I had one of my brothers and my father there to help me with production. It was such a proud moment to see these alcoholic freeze pops flying off the production line and going into cases. After a couple of hours, however, we realized we had some challenges. The most glaring challenge was that the product, which contained liquid, leaked. Well, some of them did. We had no option for sealing these packages ourselves, so we just ran as many pops as we could and slowly, one by one, we inspected and cleaned them, then packed them into cases. We were there for almost a week and we stayed up the whole night on the last day to finish all of the product we needed. At last, we loaded up the van and headed back to the mainland. As soon as we got into the van, I knew we had a problem. There was a very strong smell of alcohol. Our quality control had failed to recognize microscopic leaks in the freeze pops, and thousands of them were leaking. What was I to do? I was broke. I had orders to generate cash, but I had no cash to run more product. Well, what I did next is what entrepreneurs do. We figure it out. Do it again. When I arrived at my apartment, the cases had already started to collapse due to the leaking. I enlisted friends and relatives to help me inspect and clean the product again. We bought a couple kiddie pools and filled them up with water and freeze pops. We tossed out the bad ones and cleaned the good ones. But I knew I couldn't be sure if the leaker problem was solved. I decided to start freezing them. My initial plan had been to deliver the pops unfrozen so that consumers could take them home to freeze, but if they leaked, that would never happen. So for my first order, I scraped up enough money to buy a small freezer, and I delivered the product already frozen with the freezer. The stores, for the most part, didn't care and kind of liked having a freezer in their store. Some stores even let me put product in their ice freezers. All summer, that's what I did, basically every day. I spent my early mornings cleaning, packing, and freezing, my days selling, and my nights promoting. By the end of the summer, I knew it wasn't going to work anymore. We had thousands of dollars of liquor and unfilled freeze pops sitting at the distillery, which wanted the machine out of their facility. They figured out that they could actually run the machine so that the pops came out all connected like sausages and they didn't leak. They ran the remaining product this way, long strips connected 6 wide by 8 long, then boxed them up and sent them to a warehouse that I had rented space. I hadn't given up, but it was the end of the summer and I was still in law school and needed to finish, so I shelved the project. One big order. Another year had passed and I was in my final year of law school, but I had close to 100,000 alcoholic freeze pops sitting in a warehouse. In the previous year, I had sold them for $1 each. During the fall, winter, and spring, I searched for a distributor to pick up the product in Massachusetts. I was sending out samples when I had a few extra dollars to spare. Dozens of distributors said no until one day, unexpectedly, one said yes. A distributor in Leominster, Massachusetts, called me back and set up a meeting with the owner, Jay. I figured out a way to get gas money and came up with a plan to drive about an hour and a half to a place I honestly had never been before. Jay was a big guy wearing a velour jumpsuit with a giant gold Star of David hanging from an equally large gold necklace. He welcomed me with open arms and gave me a hug like I was his son. We sat down and discussed Zeus Juice. He asked me how many flavors we had, and I said 5, but we only had 4 in stock. He then asked me how many cases on a pallet. I had no idea. I instinctively said 50. He said he would take 4 pallets. Now here was the challenge. I had no way to deliver the pops in their current form, and I had no retail packaging. When I was selling them the summer prior, they were literally in plastic bags with a barcode sticker so that the stores could ring them up. When I first started, I hadn't thought through retail packaging as I was only focused on bars and nightclubs. Jay told me he would pick up in 2 days. I almost threw up. I said I needed 2 weeks. Now, I was broke, I owed people money, and I had an order for $20,000. I was going to figure it out. That's what entrepreneurs do. What's next? With no money, now in my last year of law school and a month before graduation, I had a chance to make a little money and pay off some debt. I had no car, no credit, no money, and barely enough food to live on. I was actually living on out-of-date Zone bars.